Hello, this is John Maggiore with MaggioreonBowie.com, and I am here today with a very special guest, Rob Fleming, lead vocalist, songwriter, and co-founder of the band KillerStar. If you don't have the album, the logo of which, the cover of the album is behind me. Um, if you don't have it, right after you finish watching this video, you should get it right away because it's a great, great album. And you might vaguely recognize the name if you haven't heard it before, and it might ring a little David Bowie bell. And I'm going to ask Rob to explain the Bowie connections. But before I turn it over to him, I just want to make just a couple quick points. First, the album has gotten some well-deserved great reviews, and the band has been called one of the 12 most exciting acts on the planet. And it's really, well-deserved praise. It's a great album, and if you've never heard of David Bowie, it would be a great album. You don't need to know David Bowie to appreciate the music. If you do know David Bowie, there's an extra added fun element of it in that there are these little Easter eggs that I've been having fun trying to pick out. But I'm going to ask Rob to try to explain that. And the other thing I wanted to say to Bowie fans is we'll never again get a genuinely new David Bowie album. There are some great covers. There are some great tributes. This is entirely different. This is new music. The spirit of David Bowie is in there, but it's not any of the above. And so it's really a special treasure. I'm not exaggerating. And if you haven't heard it yet, I just encourage anybody here to get it. So with that, let me just ask Rob, could you introduce yourself? Who have you played with before KillerStar, and how did you get this band together?
Oh, thanks so much for such a warm welcome as well, John. I really appreciate that, and love the website and the blog and everything. So just really appreciate the feedback. Well, yeah, I mean, it all kind of grew very organically, actually. So basically, yeah, the KillerStar is myself at the core. It's myself and James Sedge. He's my partner in crime on the drums, and yeah, I wrote the songs, and James worked on arrangements with me, and so on. We kind of started this project. We've known each other for a very long time, and we've come across each other in a lot of musical situations before, but we've never collaborated together. And we're like, huh, how come that's not happened? So I started to write some demos and did pretty detailed demos of the songs and sent them to James to see what he thought and play drums on them. And things evolved kind of one by one to start with. And there was never any plan at that point to involve the other players on the album. And there was no grand plan of KillerStar. It was just like, we got some songs, let's flesh them out and see where we go. And then basically what happened was, I know Em Griner, and Em's actually run a small record label. She's on that label. We're good friends. She's in Canada. And as you probably will know, John, she played with Bowie back in the 2000s. And I just sent her a couple of tracks and said, would you do some female backing vocals on that? And she loved the track. She did an outstanding job on them. And then one thing led to another. She said, oh, maybe you would like someone to put some bass on and maybe introduce you to Gail, who could play some bass. We sent the demos to Gail.
Gail is Gail and Dorsey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry, Gail and Dorsey. Yeah. So I didn't know Gail. And she liked the demos and said, yeah, I'll play on them. That's great. And one thing led to another. And it's quite almost spooky, the coincidences and the kind of organic things that happened, right through to the great photographer Jimmy King doing some press photos for us in the end. And he did a lot of work with David and all those classic photos, I think, around, well, he actually did, I think, the last photos that were taken of David. So there were lots of spooky coincidences which were just wonderful. And then everything just kind of came together, and before we knew it, we were making a full album, and here we are.
So that's great. You have not just Galen Dorsey and Emma Griner, but you have Earl Slick, Mike Garson, Donnie McCaslin, Tim LaFleur. Did I miss anybody who formerly played with Bowie?
Mark Platty, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, they're all on the album. I mean, Earl's great. I mean, same thing happened. Sent him the demos. He loved them and said, "Yeah, I'll play on them." So he's playing on the whole. Well, I think he's on the whole album apart from one song, and similar for Mike. Yeah, it's been great. I think they all really enjoyed kind of collaborating together on new music. That's what they
Yeah.
told me. That's like they got a kick out of that. And I think the songs were written fully and arranged by the time they played on them. But of course, they brought their own identity and flavor to the music, and the fact they'd done a lot of work playing with each other over time in the Bowie band. There's just a natural synergy that was there with a lot of the interactions between the players, which was brilliant. And yeah, so that's basically what happened there. But yeah, the Bowie connection, although it seems bizarre to say this, was never intended to be there from the start. I mean, he's an inspiration, of course he is for us. But yeah, it just kind of happened that way, and we're pretty blown away with the positive reaction, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, did you ever play with Bowie yourself?
Oh no, definitely not. No,
Yeah.
unfortunately
Uh,
not.
well, you got everybody else who ever did. So
Yeah.
that those musicians go back to Aladdin Sane or right through Black Star. And,
Well, yeah, that's
yeah.
what's interesting. Is it, the way it's worked out. It's every period. It kind of, like you say, Aladdin Sane and Mike's playing on that, and through Slick, and then the latter day Black Star stuff with Donnie plays sax on a track, and Tim's playing bass on 3 tracks. Gail didn't have availability to do all of the tracks, and Tim stepped in and did an outstanding job. So yeah, it's funny how it's worked out. It's kind of every period of Bowie is represented pretty much.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the intro, I think the songs stand up even if there was no Bowie connection at all. But the Easter eggs, which are sort of fun to find, and just I want to put the song "Feel It" to the side because that's the one where I didn't find any. So I'm going to ask you about that later. But all the other ones, I just want to give you the opportunity to explain what I'm talking about, and I might ask some follow-up questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm curious to see what you spotted. I mean, again, nothing was designed with an Easter egg in mind. I wish I could say we'd plotted it out, but we didn't. But like I said, I think with particularly with the players involved, they bring their flavors and some of their identity to the parts they played. And so you're definitely hearing little pieces here and there. I mean, for example, there's one song is on that one. No, "Got Me All Wrong," which is one of the singles, and Mike does an incredible piano solo at the end of that, and at the very end, which you may have noticed, John, he does a little nod to his Aladdin Sane solo, which he kind of threw in as a little extra. So we didn't know that was coming until we heard his overdub on that song. So yeah, there's quite a few flavors of Bowie, which I think it's a lot of it is because not so much in the songwriting, but more in the players that we have on the album, bringing their identity to it. Yeah.
Well, I want to go over the songs individually if you'd indulge me, but I just you
sure.
mentioned Garson and Mike Garson and Donnie McCaslin. They're so distinctive in their playing that it's almost like you could recognize their playing, like you could recognize a singer's voice.
I think so.
Yeah.
If you think about that, like you think like how many keyboard / piano players in the rock world would you be able to recognize immediately? Even if you're not like a big music aficionado, and there's probably not tons. But Mike's definitely one. And for the people who are into saxophone, I mean, Donnie's playing is so distinctive, and he plays such an emotional, evocative kind of sax playing on the solo he does on the album. So yeah, all very distinctive players, aren't they, when you think about it? And Slick as well.
Yeah. So let me just ask you about some of the individual songs.
Yeah, sure.
And if I miss something or if I get it wrong, tell me. So
Sure.
The opening is Killer Star, or Should Have Known Better, which opens with the lines, "I'm a killer star, I'm a movie star." And so Killer Star is a reference to the song New Killer Star from the album Reality. And the opening 2 lines seem to be a reference to some of the lines from the song Black Star, where Bowie is singing that he's not the type of star or that type of star. And then
you know what? I didn't realize that. Now you mention it, I've got to be honest. That part I didn't know. Obviously, I knew the KillerStar song reference, but yeah, that's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, well, in my mind, I'm thinking in the song Black Star, Bowie iterates all the types of stars that he's not. In the opening lines of your song, you say you're
Yeah,
two types of stars. I'm a killer
that's
star, I'm
interesting.
a movie star. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then there's also musically, there's the absolute beginners. I'm not going to
there
do
is.
this, but yeah,
Yeah, I'd say that you're absolutely right. I'd say that that's the one song where we were aware there was a little homage there, the Easter egg on the Absolute Beginners, Bop Bop Badoos. Again, that part wasn't written with that in mind, but by the time Em had finished doing her backing vocals on that, it kind of became that, and we were
yeah,
happy with that. Whereas you know, we think it fits the song very nicely, and it's nice to have just a little reference there to that
yeah.
tune. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first one. The next one is Everybody Loves a Hero, and I think for in my mind, and now by the time you get to the second song, I feel like I'm looking for them, right? So the word hero is a word that's associated with one of Bowie's better known songs, Heroes. And there's another Aladdin Sane piano line that
Yeah.
that sounds similar to something from Aladdin Sane. And there's a lyrical line, I'm not trying to be sane, which in my
Mm.
mind sort of connected the musical piece. Like it just sort of drew my attention to that piano piece. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Mike's was, I believe, a deliberate nod to Aladdin Sane, his
yeah,
little piano bit at the end. The rest of it, in all honesty, wasn't, and I hadn't even thought about the heroes connection. Clearly, there is,
yeah,
but yeah, that's really the song is built around that phrase. Everybody loves a hero. It's actually done with a little bit. I don't know if you spotted it, but with the lyrics, but it's a little bit of a sarcastic kind of thing. Everybody
yes,
loves a hero. Some people purport to give an air of being a hero, and they're actually not really heroes at all. But they're playing the part. So there's a little bit of British cynicism in there, I'd say. Yeah,
well, that I did notice that, and that's why I thought the connection was deliberate because the Bowie title, the album title, is in quotes.
yeah.
Like he's not being earnest in
Great
his use.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
great point. God, I just didn't realize that. I'm loving this. I should say, yeah, you're absolutely right. We worked it out in that in mind, but we honestly didn't. And like I say, remember all the songs in terms of like lyrically and the music arrangement, they were all written before any of the players played on them, the
yeah.
Bowie alumni players. So at that point, we weren't really in a mode at all of thinking too much about David. We were
Yeah.
writing the songs, and yeah, they took on a
I'm,
life of their
I'm
own.
going to come back and ask a question about how you wrote these songs, and you're sort of touching
Yeah,
on it. But let me just go through a couple more of these just to see if I'm
sure.
making this stuff up on my own. But
I'm loving this.
you mentioned "Got Me All Wrong," and you mentioned
Yeah.
something that Mike Garson does. But there's also there's a lyrical sequence where
Mm.
I think the lyrics were um, either feeling down on my knees or falling down on my
Yeah.
knees. Don't know who to please. And
Yeah.
the visual image that immediately popped into my head was the infamous risque image of David Bowie on his knees in front of Mick Ronson's guitar. And if you're not familiar with that, I'm not going to get into more of what it
Yeah,
is.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely wasn't on my mind, if I'm honest on that. I
Oh,
mean, I mean, there's a little bit in that song of a little bit of a swagger of Rebel Rebel with that guitar riff
yeah.
going on, which we're aware of, and there's a little bit of that swagger in some of the lyrics, but yeah, that reference wasn't designed.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you about two more, and then
Yeah,
that where I think I noticed, and then I'm going to ask you about the song "Feel It," where I don't think I noticed any connection. But there's and I noticed a connection in every song other than "Feel It," but I'm just going to do two more. So "You're a Chameleon." David Bowie was known as the Chameleon, and the song
yeah.
it doesn't have anything to do with David Bowie, but it's hard not to think of him by that point in the album with that song title.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Again, not designed. I mean, that was basically that lyrically. That's about um, people. Well, it's pretty obvious, really. People that
Yeah.
are switching and changing, all the time. And again, it's done from a little bit of a not an angry point of view, but you know, people pretending to be not what they are, kind of thing. But yeah, the inspiration. I mean, that was actually the first song that we wrote and demoed up. And at that point, a lot of the influence of that was musically, at least, and the urgency behind it was actually more like just modern indie kind of rock bands. I was looking just for, you know, full ahead kind of rock tune with anthemic chorus, and you know, I love the kind of mix of some of the songs that are inspired by those that mix up, you know, some heavy crunchy riffs and then lots of harmonies and vocal hooks, you know. So yeah, that was the inspiration behind that, to
Yeah.
be honest. Yeah.
Okay, last one I'm going to
What's the
ask
other
you
one? Yeah.
is the song "Too Late,"
Yeah.
and what I was thinking of was "Station to Station," where in part of the refrain, Bowie says, "It's too late. It's too late for several different things." Was that deliberate?
No.
No. Okay.
I feel
All right.
I feel bad. Yeah, I wish I could say no. No, there was nothing on that one at all, to be
Okay.
honest with you. Yeah, yeah,
So just before I get, and you again, you're touching on it, the songwriting
yeah.
process. Just on the song "Feel It," I couldn't even, if I'm making some of these up, I couldn't even make anything up on "Feel It." Did I miss something?
No, I don't think
Yeah.
so on that one. Yeah, that was another one which was just that was actually, I think that was the last song that we wrote and recorded, which was you know, just again real pretty straight ahead rocking with some modern kind of overtones of
Yeah.
you know, I think some people have said it's got kind of a bit of a glam feel in the bridge and stuff. But yeah, that just kind of came out, and that song is really about I guess it's a little bit of an angry song about people that may be a little bit too cool to show any kind of emotion, you know, when they listen to music. And even some musicians where you're like, yeah, that's okay. It's like, well, do you
Yeah.
like it? Do you feel the music or not? You know, don't be afraid to show it if you do. But yeah, there was no connection on that one, to be honest.
Okay. So you've touched on this, but you're sitting down to write the songs, and just to summarize some of what you said, and just to make sure I'm getting this right. When you sat down to write them, didn't really have David Bowie in the front of your mind, and these connections, some of which I'm seeing were not deliberate, or they're not even necessarily there. So, what was the songwriting process, or how do you begin the process of making the music?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, when I was writing the songs, there was a lot of I was listening to a lot of modern, fairly young kind of indie bands, and I was revisiting some of the actually more the latter day Bowie stuff.
Yeah.
So I really got into the Toy album. I actually love that album. And that's Mark Platy, who plays on the album, actually done several remixes that we're going to put out. Yeah, he produced that album, and I love the revisiting a lot of those old songs. So they've got a lot of, I think, you know, they sound really modern. The band at that time, and you know, Mark and Emma confirmed this, was really on fire. I mean, they'd done, as I understand it, they'd played Glastonbury, they did BBC Radio Theatre, and then they went in with that band to record the Toy album. And it's, to my ears, it sounds really vibrant and beautifully produced. So that was in my head a little bit as I was, you know, just because I was just listening to it. To be honest with you, I was listening to Black Star and revisiting the next day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, the songs just came out, and they weren't. Songwriting is a funny thing. I mean, you know, sometimes it just kind of comes out, and I think then with the other players on and the mix that we did, the flavors of the songs kind of came out even more than the demos, you know, and the identity was started to be formed. But yeah, each song basically started with writing the song, usually the music before the lyrics for me, and then I put in the lyrics, and I'm more focused upon the sound of the words and the way that they frame and some of the hooks and phrases than very literal meaning of every single word.
Yeah.
And then basically I did demos of all of them playing everything apart from the drums. And then James played the drums on the demos, and then the other players that we talked about, then we took their parts and took out the, like when I played bass on the demos, we took out the bass obviously and put Gail on. She's a much better bass player than I am, and that's how it worked really. So and everything then came together in the mix then of all the different pieces that we'd pulled in from the other players. We had a great mixer, Dave Ehringer. Dave's he's most known for mixing and produce a lot of the Manic Street Preachers albums. He's also worked with Roger Daltrey and some others, and he's just a master mixer. And the mixes he did, they came back like, yeah, that's what we want. Which is not to get too nerdy, but often when you write songs and record stuff, the mix can be quite painful for musicians, where it's like, that wasn't quite what I had in mind, or that's too quiet, that's too loud, this is the wrong sound. But he got it immediately, and I think the sound of the album is, he takes a lot of credit for that, and it's quite a wide, I don't know if you noticed, but it's quite a wide kind of CinemaScope stereo kind of mix, deliberately. There's a lot of detail in there, a lot of especially on headphones, lots of little bits and pieces in there that we deliberately added in, and but he managed to mix them so they were clear, it didn't sound cluttered. So that was a big part of the coming together of the album, the mix, I'd say.
I'll tell you, talking about the mix, the first time I listened through, actually I came across the first video, so that was the first time I heard the band. But then I got the whole album, and the first time I listened to it through, I was listening to it through my car, which is not optimal, right?
Yeah.
And then the second time I listened to it through earphones, and I don't want to say it's almost like another album, but it's a much better experience listening to it through earphones. Yeah. So. Yeah,
no, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think that is the case. I mean, and it's different for different albums, or different albums. But yeah, James and I are very much into, albums with depth, and we love listening to albums with little ear candy, little things that pop in, and in our mind that helps with repeated listening, because you're kind of hearing different pieces. So that was the idea, but it could have fallen over in the mix, because it could have ended up being a too cluttered, or but Dave really nailed that part, I think.
Yeah, great. So let me ask you this. Do you see this as a permanent band, or is it a one-off project, sort of like the Traveling Wilburys?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of we try not to get too ahead of ourselves until we put the album out, just because we generally didn't know what people would think. But the reaction's been far, but exceeded our dreams, so we're so happy about that. So we're going to continue for sure, and write some new material. As to who will play on the album, I don't know at this point. We're just gonna, because the core of it is James and I writing the songs and getting everything ready, and then for sure we're going to be asking the guys, many of who played on the album, to be involved, and I think I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to be. And we've done one live gig so far, the album launch in London, which was great. We're doing a US kind of launch gig in New York in November as well, and we're plotting a few more shows. But again, we wanted to just take it steady, and you never know with a new project and new band, new sound, new album, whether people are going to want to listen and come to the shows. But the London show was sold out, and we were blown away by the reaction to that. So we're definitely going to keep going. Yeah.
So for people watching this video, I'm based in New York State. I live about 2.5 hours north of New York City.
Try and come to the gig.
I will. And I would say, if anybody, I will post the details on the blog, and I'll repost it probably in October, because you're coming in November.
Perfect.
But I will say to everybody who's watching this, that get your tickets soon, because I guarantee this will be a sold out show, and you're going to want to come back to the US. Where I will say that, I think with this album, this is just my opinion, I think that the Bowie connection is going to draw people in, but the standalone quality of the music is going to keep people wanting more. And I think, And I think, my observation writing this blog, this whole project, is that the interest in Bowie is probably greater now than in the last 40 years of his life.
Yeah.
And I think that's a selling point, but it's if somebody is, hey, well, this seems interesting, it's not, even though I went through the whole Easter egg hunt, it is in no way a novelty album. This is a solid piece of music, and it's just,
Thank you.
I think, if you want to tour this, you're going to have sellout shows, at least in this part of the world, I could tell you.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, as you rightly, I don't know, it's never designed as a tribute or anything, but so yeah, I mean, that's what's happened, which is really gratifying because people, I mean, for sure, some of the Bowie community and over here, particularly in the UK, we've had there's obviously a rabid Bowie fan community. They were attracted to start with by, let's check out what
yeah,
these guys are doing. But everybody's really, said we just love the music and the album, the songs, and so on, standalone. And then there's a lot of people that have bought the album and are following us and sending us messages that actually have got just a basic knowledge of Bowie, so they're just hearing the music, which is really, what we hoped it would be.
yeah,
But yeah.
great. Well, so thank you very much. This has been terrific. I do want to ask you one closing question,
Yeah, sure.
which I ask everybody, which is, what is your favorite Bowie song and album?
Man. I mean, it changes probably for you as well, doesn't it?
I
Like,
know. Ask me on a different day. I'll give a different.
well, I mean, like many people, I'm very attracted to Station to Station album and Stay, track. But I guess, oh man, choosing one, I'm not sure I can do one, if I'm honest.
Okay. All right. I'll get
Yeah,
the pen.
yeah. I do like mid and later period a lot, at
Yeah.
the moment and the last couple of years. And listen to, I mean, that's the great thing, as you know, about Bowie is like, there's the songs that everybody knows, but then when you go deep and you whoa, look at this, deep cut tracks are just incredible. So I love Black Star, like I said, I love the Toy album. I love some of the tracks on that have been reimagined.
Yeah.
And yeah, I honestly can't name one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What's yours?
All right. What's mine? Well, my favorite album has been Scary Monsters for a very, very long time. And my favorite song is more likely to change, but I would say the song Beauty and the Beast, which is the opening song
Mm,
off of Heroes.
hmm
But
Yeah.
like you, I'm very attracted to some of his later works. Black Star, I think, is just a monumental work of genius. And
Oh,
I did a written interview with Ben Monder, who played guitar on Black Star. And when I was doing this, like before I sent him the questions, I just did this mental check because I remember how I felt in the days after that album came out, and because he died shortly thereafter, and I was just
right.
so emotional. And so,
Yeah.
okay, so now it's 8 years later. Does it hold up? And I'm like, it really does. It's
Yeah.
really one of his best albums, period.
Yeah.
And I actually,
100% agree with you.
yeah, and not to do too much of the talking myself, but
Hmm.
today, somebody who gets into Bowie for the first time, there's no chronological sequence. So
No.
it's not like, oh, I was all fired up for Scary Monsters and I felt like he sold out with Let's Dance, right? Because I think during his career, he was always reinventing himself, and that
Yeah.
led to a certain degree of disappointment. So now it's all there.
Yeah.
And somebody who just getting to know Bowie, Black Star is as old as um, Space Oddity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's just such a rich catalog, isn't it? It's
yeah,
incredible. Yeah. So yeah, we're very inspired by all of that. And, one thing we've done is we've actually done, which Mark Platty's worked on mostly. We've done like alternate versions of the songs as well on the Killer Star album, which take some of the songs in quite a different direction, like acoustic direction, ambient direction. We wanted to, in a couple of songs, like feature Mike more heavily, for example,
yeah,
some of the piano playing, it's just unbelievable. Um, So I just kind of mentioned that because at some point that album's done, and actually we got the vinyl pressed and everything, but we've not announced a release date yet. But we will obviously release it, and that could be interesting because again, it's the songs, but very different. Some of them are extremely different from that, and again, like we're talking about with Bowie reinventing himself and coming at things from different angles. You know, we've taken a little bit of inspiration for that, and it was a thrill to have Mark work on some of those alternate versions and remixes. Yeah, so
Great. Well, I definitely look forward to it, and I look forward to whatever you come out with in the future. It's really, really, really
thank you
cool.
so much.
Thank you
We
very
really
much.
appreciate all the comments, and it's great to hear. You know, you've really listened to it and kind of enjoyed it. So I really appreciate that, and yeah, I hope to see you in New York.
Yeah, I hope to be there. Not
Yeah,
far from where I live, so I think I can make it. Thank you.
perfect. Okay, take care.